Most people believe a higher salary is the ultimate sign of progress. More income means more security, more freedom, and a better future. That belief feels logical, responsible, and widely accepted, yet for millions, it quietly becomes a trap. A trap no one explains while you are climbing, celebrating promotions, or signing new contracts. The danger is not earning money. The danger is building a life that cannot survive without that paycheck arriving on time, every month, forever. Expenses rise with income, commitments multiply, flexibility disappears. What begins as success slowly hardens into dependence. This trap is powerful because it does not feel like failure. It feels like stability. Mortgages, car payments, subscriptions, insurance, lifestyle upgrades, and social expectations lock in place. Walking away becomes impossible, not because you lack skills, but because your obligations demand continuity. Most people only recognize the trap when something breaks: a layoff, burnout, health issues, economic slowdown. By then, options feel limited and stress replaces choice. In this breakdown, you will see how the salary trap forms, why it is encouraged, and why escaping it requires a different way of thinking about income, time, and risk. Awareness is the first step toward regaining control. The salary trap does not appear suddenly. It is constructed gradually through incentives that reward predictability over independence. Employers offer steady income in exchange for time. Employees accept because consistency feels safe. Over time, that exchange becomes the foundation of life planning. Fixed income encourages fixed expenses. Long-term contracts feel reasonable when income appears guaranteed. Mortgages are sized to current pay. Vehicles are financed. Subscriptions accumulate. Each decision seems manageable in isolation. Together, they form a structure that depends entirely on continued employment. Promotions accelerate the process. Higher income justifies higher spending. Lifestyle expands to match earnings rather than resilience. This is known as lifestyle inflation, but the real issue is fragility. The margin for error shrinks as commitments rise. The system reinforces itself socially. Success is measured by visible stability: titles, salary figures, and possessions. Questioning the model feels irresponsible, even when it creates anxiety. The trap is not low pay, it is dependency. When survival requires uninterrupted income from a single source, bargaining power vanishes. Time flexibility disappears. Risk tolerance collapses. At that point, the salary no longer represents freedom, it represents obligation, locking individuals into roles they may have outgrown long before realizing it. Stability is comforting because it reduces uncertainty. A regular paycheck simplifies planning and quiets fear. Bills are predictable, routines form, life feels organized. But stability can be deceptive when it depends on factors outside personal control. Salaries rely on institutions, markets, and decisions made by others. Layoffs, restructuring, automation, and economic cycles can end income instantly. The illusion of safety disappears the moment continuity breaks. What felt secure reveals itself as conditional. True security is not consistency. It is adaptability. A system that works only under perfect conditions is fragile, yet salary-based living encourages exactly that kind of design. Savings often lag behind lifestyle. Emergency buffers remain thin. Skills may become specialized to one role or company. The longer someone stays inside the salary trap, the harder it becomes to leave. Risk feels intolerable because consequences are immediate. Fear replaces curiosity. Opportunities that require short-term sacrifice are dismissed, even when they offer long-term resilience. Stability becomes a cage when it prevents change. The goal is not to eliminate salary income, but to understand its limits. Security does not come from predictability alone. It comes from optionality. Without alternatives, stability is merely a pause before disruption. The salary model is built on a simple trade: time exchanged for income. At first, this feels fair. You show up, perform tasks, and receive compensation. But over years, the cost of that trade compounds in ways most people never calculate. Time is finite, non-renewable, and irreversible. Money is renewable. When income depends entirely on hours worked, earnings are capped by availability and energy. Even high salaries remain limited by the number of hours a person can physically sustain. This creates a ceiling that effort alone cannot break. As responsibilities increase, time flexibility decreases. Meetings expand, expectations rise. Availability becomes assumed rather than negotiated. Vacations require approval. Sick days feel disruptive. Work follows you home through notifications and mental load. The deeper issue is leverage. Salaried workers have limited control over pricing their output. Raises are incremental. Promotions are conditional. Income growth depends on approval rather than ownership. This structure discourages long-term thinking. Energy is spent maintaining performance rather than building assets or skills that operate independently. Over time, individuals may earn more but control less. The salary grows, yet freedom shrinks. The hidden cost is not exhaustion alone. It is opportunity loss. Time invested solely for immediate pay cannot be invested in systems that compound without constant presence. That trade-off defines the salary trap's deepest limitation. Contrary to popular belief, higher income does not guarantee freedom. In many cases, it deepens dependence. As earnings rise, expectations adjust quickly. Housing upgrades, education costs increase, social circles shift. Lifestyle expands to match income rather than resilience. High earners often carry larger fixed obligations. Bigger mortgages, higher insurance premiums, and complex financial commitments reduce flexibility. Walking away from a role becomes harder, not easier. The cost of interruption rises sharply. Professional identity also tightens. Specialized roles can limit mobility. Skills become tailored to specific industries or companies. Transitioning to something new may require a temporary income drop, which feels unacceptable once obligations are high. This creates a paradox. The more someone earns, the more cautious they become. Risk tolerance declines. Creative options narrow. Opportunities that once felt exciting now feel dangerous. High earners are also more exposed to burnout. Performance pressure increases. Expectations escalate. The margin for rest disappears. Yet, stepping back feels impossible because the lifestyle depends on continuity. The salary trap does not discriminate by income level. It intensifies with success. Without intentional structure, higher pay accelerates dependence instead of freedom. Wealth is not defined by income alone. It is defined by how long you can sustain your life without it. Fear is the invisible force that reinforces the salary trap. Fear of instability, fear of judgment, fear of making the wrong move. These emotions operate quietly, shaping decisions without announcing themselves. Most people do not stay in unfulfilling roles because they enjoy them. They stay because uncertainty feels worse than dissatisfaction. The known discomfort becomes preferable to the unknown risk. Over time, this fear becomes normalized. Social reinforcement strengthens it. Family expectations, peer comparisons, and cultural definitions of success discourage deviation. Leaving a stable job can be interpreted as irresponsibility rather than strategy. Approval becomes another form of currency. Fear also distorts perception. Alternatives appear riskier than they are. Failures feel permanent. Short-term setbacks overshadow long-term gains. This mental framing favors inaction. The salary trap thrives on delayed consequences. As long as the paycheck arrives, the cost of dependence remains abstract. Fear suppresses experimentation until a crisis forces change. At that point, options are limited. Breaking the trap requires confronting fear early, when choices still exist. This does not mean reckless decisions. It means reframing risk. Staying dependent is not neutral. It carries its own danger. Recognizing that truth is essential. Fear protects comfort, not security. Understanding this distinction opens the door to deliberate change. The salary trap restricts growth by narrowing how progress is defined. Advancement becomes tied to titles, raises, and approval rather than capability expansion. When income is linked to a role, learning focuses on performing that role better, not building broader leverage. This creates linear growth in a world that increasingly rewards nonlinear outcomes. Skills that compound independently receive less attention because immediate performance is prioritized. Long-term projects feel risky when they do not guarantee short-term income. Organizations often benefit from this structure. Predictable employees reduce volatility. Initiative is encouraged only within defined boundaries. Innovation that threatens hierarchy or routine is discouraged subtly rather than explicitly. Over time, curiosity dulls. The trap also affects decision-making. Opportunities are evaluated based on salary impact instead of strategic value. A lower-paying role with greater learning potential is rejected. A safer option is chosen even if it leads nowhere. Growth requires space to experiment. Salary dependence compresses that space. Mistakes become expensive. Failure feels catastrophic. As a result, potential is underused. The issue is not ambition, it is structure. When survival depends on uninterrupted income, experimentation disappears. Growth slows not because ability is lacking, but because the system punishes deviation. Recognizing this limitation is critical for anyone seeking progress beyond incremental advancement. Optionality means having choices without facing immediate harm. It is the ability to change direction without collapse. True security comes from this flexibility, not from a single reliable paycheck. Salaries reduce optionality when they become the sole support structure. The loss of income threatens housing, healthcare, and stability all at once. That concentration of risk makes individuals cautious by necessity. Optionality is built through redundancy, multiple income streams, transferable skills, savings designed for time, not just emergencies, ownership of assets that produce value independent of daily effort. This does not require abandoning employment immediately. It requires intentional layering. Side projects, freelance work, investments in learning that expand reach beyond one employer. Optionality changes psychology. Decisions become proactive rather than defensive. Negotiation power increases. Fear weakens because survival no longer hinges on a single outcome. Employers sense this shift. Those with options are treated differently. They can set boundaries. They can walk away. This is not arrogance. It is leverage. The salary trap persists because optionality is delayed in favor of comfort. But comfort fades quickly when conditions change. Optionality endures. It absorbs shocks and creates opportunity. Building it early is not rebellion. It is preparation for an uncertain future where rigidity is punished and flexibility is rewarded. Most people do not recognize the salary trap while they are inside it. The system functions smoothly until it doesn't. Paychecks arrive, obligations are met, discomfort is manageable. The absence of immediate pain masks long-term risk. Recognition often comes during disruption, a layoff, health issues, burnout, economic downturns. When income stops, the fragility becomes visible. What once felt stable reveals itself as dependent. By that stage, rebuilding optionality is harder. Time pressure replaces patience. Decisions are reactive rather than strategic. Learning curves feel steeper. Confidence may be shaken. The delay is not due to ignorance. It is due to incentive design. As long as the system rewards compliance and continuity, questioning it feels unnecessary. Warnings feel abstract. Cultural narratives reinforce this blindness. Stability is praised. Risk is discouraged. Alternative paths are framed as irresponsible or unrealistic. This social framing delays awareness. The tragedy is not the trap itself. It is the timing of realization. Early awareness allows gradual adjustment. Late awareness forces abrupt change. Understanding the salary trap before crisis is an advantage. It creates space to redesign income, commitments, and priorities deliberately. Awareness does not require immediate action. It requires honesty. Seeing the structure clearly is the first step toward escaping its limitations. Escaping the salary trap does not require dramatic exits or reckless decisions. The most effective transitions are gradual, intentional, and controlled. The goal is not to abandon income, but to reduce dependence on a single source. The first step is separating lifestyle from salary. Expenses must be designed around resilience, not peak earnings. Lower fixed costs increase freedom immediately, even without changing income. Flexibility begins with reducing commitments that demand continuity. The second step is reclaiming time. This may involve negotiating boundaries, reducing unnecessary obligations, or reallocating energy toward building alternatives. Time is the input that creates options. Without it, escape remains theoretical. The third step is experimenting safely. Side income, skill monetization, consulting, digital products, or ownership-based work can be tested without risking stability. These experiments provide feedback and confidence. Escaping the trap is a process of accumulation, not replacement. Options stack gradually. Dependence weakens incrementally. Most importantly, mindset must shift. Employment becomes a tool, not an identity. Income becomes a resource, not a lifeline. Those who escape early rarely do so through bold leaps. They do it through disciplined preparation. By the time they leave, they are not jumping. They are stepping into something already functioning. Success defined solely by salary is narrow and fragile. It measures output without accounting for control, resilience, or sustainability. Redefining success requires expanding the criteria. A more durable definition includes time autonomy, optionality, and the ability to adapt. It asks how long you could maintain your life if income paused. It values leverage over labor and systems over hours. Under this lens, a lower salary paired with flexibility may represent greater success than a high-paying role that demands total dependence. The metric shifts from income size to income structure. This reframing changes decisions. Opportunities are evaluated for learning, ownership, and scalability. Short-term sacrifice becomes acceptable when it builds long-term independence. Social comparison loses power. External validation matters less when internal alignment improves. Success becomes personal rather than performative. Redefining success does not reject ambition. It refines it. The aim is not less effort, but smarter effort. Not fewer goals, but better ones. When success is measured by freedom instead of figures, the salary trap loses its grip. Work becomes a choice rather than a requirement. Income becomes one pillar among many. That shift is not visible immediately, but its impact compounds over time. The salary trap is not a mistake. It is a design. A system that rewards predictability while quietly discouraging independence. Most people do exactly what they are taught, and for a time it works. The cost only becomes visible when flexibility disappears. If this breakdown resonated, it is not because something is wrong with you. It is because you recognized a structure that rarely gets explained honestly. Awareness is not criticism, it is leverage. You do not need to quit your job tomorrow. You do not need to reject stability. What matters is understanding where dependence exists and whether it aligns with the future you want. Small adjustments made early outperform dramatic moves made under pressure. In the next video, we will explore practical paths people have used to rebuild optionality while remaining employed. Real strategies, real trade-offs, no hype, just frameworks that work in real life. If you want to think clearly about money, time, and independence, stay connected. Subscribe and enable notifications so you do not miss what comes next. The salary trap tightens slowly. Escaping it works the same way. Early awareness creates space. Space creates options. Options create freedom. Choose awareness now while the choice is still yours.